Good afternoon. I'm Danielle Shenk inside the 1011 Now streaming studio with your weekly consumer safety spotlight. Joining me now is Josh Planos with the Better Business Bureau. How's it going here today?
It's going great, Danielle. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Hopefully, it's a good start to your week.
It is. It is. The weather's cooperating. I still feel like I have no idea what season it is in the state of Nebraska, but that's to be expected, I suppose, this time of year.
Yeah, and I think my car is finally catching up. I had a few low tire monitors go off, but now I think it's finally settling in.
So, ironically, last week I did get the annual "your tire pressure is low" notification. Went through that whole experience, and then 48 hours later, I was wearing shorts. So,
Yeah.
again, Nebraska weather, kind of in a 48-hour nutshell.
Alrighty, so we'll get to two important topics today. The first up is a scam recently reported right here in Nebraska. So, Josh, can you walk us through what happened?
Yeah, so last Thursday, we received a report from a Nebraska resident who had inadvertently dialed the wrong phone number they were trying to reach Nebraska Total Care and some Medicaid services. And this person is dyslexic, so they just simply transposed the digits that they were supposed to type in, to get access to these services. It was a simple mistake. And unfortunately for them, they reached scammers who impersonated the insurance company. They requested information such as bank details. They pretended like they were going to give this person a gift card at the end of the experience. But the person, luckily, did report the experience and did hang up before they ultimately lost what would have amounted to about $1,000. But they did ultimately end up sharing a lot of information with the scammer. Luckily, they did report this incident to us. They reported it then to the police and to their bank. And they shared this information with us because they know Medicaid and a lot of government services are kind of tied up at the moment. And there's a lot of confusion around there. And again, all this is to say that a single digit, right, directed them to a completely different source, a source that they wanted to have no sorts of interaction with. And they ultimately probably lost a good deal of their personal identity. Like a lot of that information is probably widely available now for that scammer to weaponize. So again, this is not necessarily a unique experience, but I think an experience that speaks to a lot of the confusion around government services and just how easy it is to inadvertently call somebody who has created a number that is so close to what you would anticipate reaching out to, so as to be effectively a safety net for people who call the wrong phone number. Right, this person was truly preying on someone who just mistyped the phone number.
Mm-hmm. Now, are misdialing scams kind of like this one something that you've seen quite often, or is this pretty unique?
No, we do see this actually quite regularly. There are a lot of scammers who, just like if you would create a lookalike website, you would make that URL just a single character or two characters different from what you would anticipate the URL looking like if you were to go to an official site. We see a lot of phone numbers that are, again, a digit or two away from the real number, the official number, but clearly not getting you into touch with someone who really has your best interest in mind. And the reason for this is perhaps obvious, but it's really to collect all of the people who are accidentally going to websites or to misdialing phone numbers. And if it looks very, very similar to the official site or the official phone number, you can run all sorts of digital marketing advertisements and targeting tactics to pass the smell test for that person and to get them to come to your website or to make that phone call to your non-existent business.
Yeah, and unfortunately, in this case, you said these caller avoided about $1,000 leaving their accounts. Now, what is something what should people do right away if they realize they've shared some personal banking information?
Yeah, well, I do credit this person a great deal because they did report their experience to a number of different authorities, right? They reported it to the BBB. We encourage them to report it to police. We encourage them to report it to their bank because anytime your personal information is compromised, chances are your online sensitive accounts are also going to be compromised. So we would encourage anyone who has passed along any sort of information to a scammer to lock down those most sensitive accounts. And for many of us, that sadly looks like a lot of our accounts these days because of the way a lot of these accounts are integrated with one another. So it's not enough to say that, this is something that likely impacts your bank. If your YouTube TV account has your bank information integrated as an automatic payment, or if you've got an auto loan, right, that ties directly to your bank account, you want to make sure that all of these accounts are locked down. So we would encourage that person to very closely monitor their credit score and their credit report to see if there's any strange circumstances or strange transactions that emerge, but also encourage them to, of course, change their passwords and to report to the impacted party, right? Much as the BBB wants to know if you've been scammed trying to purchase something on Amazon, Amazon also wants to know that, and that's probably a more directly impacted party, right? So you want to make sure that you're reporting through that official channel. We would encourage this person to reach out to their Medicaid rep or the government agency that controls that service to, again, let them know that someone out there is impersonating them, and also to make sure that that information is kept up to date in terms of like security and whatnot to the best of their ability.
Mm-hmm. That's quite a web that you weaved there with all of the different things that are linked together. That is such a great point. Now, is there anything that the BBB recommends tools-wise, or if your website can help with double-checking kind of some customer service numbers before people call, or what do you recommend?
Yeah, so we don't have the official Medicaid phone number, I would say, probably listed on bbb.org, but we do have some helpful tips that I think will help anybody who is looking to purchase holiday gifts or insurance or really anything in between, right? And those tips are to verify the number before you dial. Perhaps seems obvious, but scammers are creating all sorts of webs and patterns that really make it very difficult for you to get where you want to go. If you can find that official phone number online, that's really a good place to start, and to cross-reference that with, say, a number you've written down or a number that you have on a card, right? For many of us, the customer service line is directly tied to our credit card. It might even be on the back side of that credit card. So you want to make sure that that information looks the same, right? You're essentially just double checking the number before you dial it. Anytime someone is asking you for sensitive information, best practice is to hang up and call them back if you feel like it is an appropriate conversation. Legitimate organizations, they don't typically ask for your full bank details. They don't ask for your social security number. They don't ask for passwords during unexpected calls. So if somebody requests that information, even if you ultimately called them, politely end the call and dial the official number from your insurance card or on the information listed on the back of your Medicaid documents. And then one red flag that I really did want to point out, Danielle, is that there was a reward or a gift card that was dangled for this person. That is such a red flag. Anytime someone is willing to pay you something for your services, that's typically the hallmark of a scam, right? Scammers will use gift cards. They'll use surprise rewards as bait to collect your information. So if somebody is mentioning money, or they're mentioning benefits, they're mentioning gift cards that you weren't expecting, that is a major red flag. Real Medicaid programs, they don't have gift cards that they can hand out to you, right? And they don't surprise you with that during a phone call. So anytime you hear that information or hear that there's some sort of incentive that's delivering you rewards, that is a cause to tread carefully.
Mm-hmm. And so you mentioned holidays coming up. Well, that kind of moves into our second topic here, seasonal jobs. Now it's that kind of year when stores are hiring for some extra help. And so if that's you and you're listening, make sure you listen up. Josh, what are some of the biggest red flags that applicants should watch for when applying for these seasonal positions?
Yeah, Danielle, employment fraud is rampant. And this is something that back in my day, and I'm going to age myself a little bit here, you did used to have to physically fill out an application and hand it to somebody in person, or you'd have to mail it in, right, to be eligible for a position. And now you can easy apply for 15 jobs from your couch in 20 minutes, right? And think about all the information you pass along to somebody when you apply for a job, right? If you did think even slightly that information might not be going to someone who is hiring for a position at all, or someone who might not have your best interest in mind, I think a lot of us would probably tread more carefully, passing along, our entire biography to a complete stranger, right? Which is ultimately what you do when you apply for a job online. So that's one thing. But pop-up shops and seasonal fare typically is kind of a unique experience in that it moves very, very quickly, right? So we hear from people pretty regularly who do maybe a single interview and they get hired, or maybe they don't interview at all and they get hired. And of course, scammers are really good at what they do, right? So they're not going to tell you that you're going to make below minimum wage to do this work. They're going to tell you that you're going to make a great, there's going to be all of these different incentives, right? But something that we would recommend is if the company tells you that you need to pay them, like for training or for equipment or anything like that, that is something to avoid entirely, right? Real employers, they pay you. It's never the other way around. So if somebody asks you to pay for training or to pay for supplies or background checks or application fees, you should walk away from that immediately, right? Anytime you're hired also without ever talking to anybody, even in a tight labor market, that just doesn't exist, right? Real companies, they want to meet you. They want to meet you either by phone, by video, or in person. So if you receive a job offer through email or text without any conversation, as wonderful as that sounds, that is incredibly suspicious, right? The scammers, they skip interviews because they can't answer your questions about the actual company. And then, of course, be on the lookout for pay that sounds too good to be true. Scammers are really good at dangling what sounds like a wonderful contract in front of you. And sometimes that company doesn't make any sense at all, right? We hear all the time from people who say that they were paid to repackage items from home. So you think about, like, you get a box and then you unbox the item and then you rebox the item and you send it. There's just, like, logistically, there's really not a world in which that would be like the ideal way for materials to go from one person to another, right? And so you could see, like, why a criminal gang would be interested in that service, but not necessarily why a reputable business would pay for a simple task or a task like that.
Mm-hmm. And now, are you seeing an increase in employment scams for seasonal workers this year?
This year, it's a little too early to tell, right? I mean, we're just kind of mid-November. I will say for seasonal work across the board, we have employment fraud, though, as a whole is up. That is something that really, since the pandemic, we haven't really reconciled with how different the labor market looks and how fast some of these scams operate, right? And really, I think for many of us, we think that there are some of these sites that are just foolproof or completely secure, right? Your LinkedIn, your ZipRecruiter, your Indeed, but we have actually had plenty of reports from all of those sites, and none of those sites are happy about it, right? They're doing what they can to police that activity. But all of this is to say that just because you see somebody who's on LinkedIn posting a position, that doesn't mean that position is real, and it doesn't mean it doesn't deserve, kind of a cross-reference. What I would recommend is, if you see a position from a company that you know, or even a company that you don't, make sure that position actually exists on the careers page of the company, right? So if, let's say it's Amazon, you go to Amazon careers with a Google search, and you just make sure that position is still being hired for. At bare minimum, you know that position is real, right? And that might seem like a really small thing, but for many, they just assume, because it's on this site that I know and I trust, that the position must be real and it must pay exactly this much money and I must be the perfect fit for it. You might be the perfect fit for it, but first you want to make sure that position is real. And so cross-referencing the position on LinkedIn or Indeed with the actual careers page of the company is best practice.
Mm-hmm. And so what are some things that might stick out to you as someone who works at the BBB, that the employer is legitimate and what they're asking for is something that's appropriate? The information they're asking for is appropriate.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you are hiring for a position, there is a lot of information that is on the table, right? Anyone who has ever had a first day of work can attest to all of the information that you pass along to your employer. Your bank account information, your social security number, a direct deposit. There's so much information that you're passing along. If you're just applying for the job, they don't need that information. right? It's not to say that you need to be an anonymous person, but if someone is asking for social security number or bank account information before you've even interviewed for the job, that is an enormous red flag, and you should absolutely bypass that situation completely. Anytime an employer is asking you for work before you're actually hired, as simple as that sounds, that is something that real employers don't ask, right? They don't ask for you to complete major projects. They don't ask for you to complete design work or do any sort of complex assignment work before extending you an official offer letter. So if you are being asked to work as a trial, or they're requesting certain deliverables before providing you written confirmation of your employment, that's something to avoid completely. And then, anytime, have a general sense for what the market rate is for that service. Many of us would like to make as much money as possible if all the circumstances were held equal. But if somebody, again, to go back to the repackaging example, if somebody promises you $3,000 a week to repackage items from home, or $50 an hour to answer emails, that is something that should cause you to stop and think, why would somebody be asking me to do this for this amount of money? Those positions really don't exist. So have a real conversation with yourself about what tasks you are looking to perform and the amount of money you're looking to make for those tasks. And that should help you guide what opportunities are real from which ones are fraudulent.
Alrighty, and as we kind of wrap up here, where can people go to find more about these scams or how to report one?
Yeah, so BBB.org is our website. There's all sorts of information there on scam prevention, consumer protection, holiday shopping. That's top of mind for many of us. If you do need to report an experience or a scam, I would encourage you to use Scam Tracker. That's bbb.org/scam tracker. It is hyperlinked on every single page on bbb.org for a reason. It takes 2.5 minutes to file a Scam Tracker report, and you can be kept completely anonymous. So if the holdup for you is that you don't want to be associated with that report forever, you don't need to worry about that. It's not the way it works, but you can protect the public. And I will say that in 2026, there's going to be a whole lot of new features coming to Scam Tracker that will make the experience that much easier for you to navigate. So I'd encourage you to check that out to get a sense for what is happening in your community, but also to use that tool like a tool, right? And to protect the public, just as this person who sadly experienced a scam last week did.
All right. Thanks so much, Josh. We'll be looking forward to the new updates in 2026.
Thank you, Danielle.
As always, thank you for joining us, Josh, and stay tuned to our website. Follow us on all our social platforms and make sure to download our app on Roku for more news of the day. From our newsroom to wherever you are, we'll see you on the next stream.
1011 News is everywhere. Download our smart TV apps and follow us on social media at 1011 News.